Okay. Welcome to Community Conversations. My name is Courtney Shaw. I'm the facilitator of the series here, our series on technology and change. And I'm very pleased to welcome you all, both live and on Zoom. Talk about technology and change, to hear from the LCC eLearning team. So the LCC eLearning department consists of 3 people who are there for you whenever education and technology intersect. For current students and staff, we answer computer questions. They answer, I don't. They answer computer questions, help with Google and Microsoft apps, and teach others how to use educational technology such as Canvas. If they don't know the answer, they will help you find the person that does. Please welcome the LCC eLearning team.
Thank you. This one's for you. Okay. Hi. So my name is Sarah Griffith, and I'm the Director of eLearning here at LCC. I'm very happy to be here. We kind of have a hodgepodge, a potpourri of just technical information, and my section is on the history of classes at LCC. There we go. So Danielle and David are going to do their own introductions during their section, so I'll just do my introduction. Just to give you a little bit of history about me, I've been the e-learning director since 2015, so I don't know how many years that is, too many, or not enough. We'll see how it goes. But I have grown up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Scappoose, Oregon, if you know where that is. And I went down to Texas for 7 years, but too many things tried to kill me while I was down there. A wasp, a scorpion, and tornadoes. So I came back up to the Pacific Northwest, where the only thing I have to worry about are mudslides and the big one, which still hasn't happened. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is the history of online courses at LCC. And so I am not an expert, but I did some research. So what we're going to talk about is kind of who the people I talked to were. Scott Dennis, who was the very first director of e-learning at LCC. He was there from 2005 to 2007 as the manager. Before that, he was the first e-learning work study. And that's all that the department consisted of, was one work study that reported to the head librarian. So he would send out VHSs for students to watch. They would send them back. They would send in their items to be graded, and then they would be graded and sent back to the students. So that's kind of the correspondence course model, or the telecourse model that we first had as online classes. Renee Carney was the next director of e-learning, and she was here from 2008 to 2015. And then there's me from 2015 to present. So we have only had 3 directors of e-learning over the history of the department at LCC. So actually not much turnover. Side note, Scott Dennis and Renee Carney both work at Canvas now, which is the learning management system that we use. So kind of a fun fact. So picture this. The year is 1997. 19% of the households have internet access. That's a very low amount. Seinfeld is the #1 TV show. AOL chat rooms are multiplying, and you're getting those annoying discs in the mail to sign up for AOL. They just changed their fees to $19.95 for unlimited, which is kind of nice. Netscape is the popular web browser. Deep Blue has just beat the chess champion. Sony PlayStation is 2 years old, and they just released their DualShock controller, so you can rumble while you play video games. And LCC is delving into the world of distance education. So in spring 1998, we only had 4 fully online courses, and those were all English courses. We also had some CD-ROM assisted courses where you would have to do an orientation, and then you did the rest of your work with a computer and a CD. And then we also had 6 telecourses, which included Spanish. Alex Emerson, who still works here at LCC, would send those VHS tapes to students. They would watch them and send back their assignments written out in the mail. So eventually, Alex started using a telephone system with a tree-like thing. So students would press 1 for a specific assignment to speak into the telephone, and then she would listen to that and then give them a grade based on that. So that's kind of the early years of online learning. The English courses utilized email and also a website. which I was really hoping it would come up. So one of the things I used is Internet Archive, if you've ever heard of that. It's a really great resource to see what web pages looked like in the past. And it looks like it's not going to work for me right here, but let's go to here, here. And our website used to be lcc.ctc.edu before it changed. It doesn't want to work for me today. It knew I was going to present. So we'll move on. Let's see if it goes to this one. Nope, it doesn't like me today. So what we'll do instead is talk about the timeline of online courses at LCC. So we start offering the correspondence and telecourses and a few fully online. Then in 2001, the e-learning department got one work study student to be able to mail out the materials and receive them, and then give those to the instructors to grade. Students started using email to receive assignments, but a lot of times the instructors would still have the student worker printed out and then mail it back to the students instead of emailing back to the students. So then we received a Title III grant to purchase Blackboard and advanced e-learning in about 2004 and 2003, but we realized we hated Blackboard, and so we switched to Angel. So those were Scott Dennis's words. Angel was the learning management system that we had before Canvas. So we had it for many, many years until 2012 and 2013. And the first instructor to use Angel was Kathy Mauser, and she converted the nursing correspondence courses to online. So then in 2005 and 2006, students started asking for more courses to have an online presence. So in fall 2005, a few years later, we get 29 distance education courses, and these are some of the ones that are included in that. Trigonometry, Spanish, I think we had some geology courses as well. Those were using telecourses, English composition, and music cultures of the world. So kind of after we start getting more and more online courses in 2005, we start the first fully online nursing program in 2006. Then LCC starts offering the WAOL courses in around 2001. And WAOL was a system that the entire state had where we could offer fully online courses to our students, but other teachers at other colleges taught them. So it was a consortium model where everybody could go into this one fully online class and take classes with an instructor. So LCC still received funding for that, but we had more courses available for students that way. And then in 2012, we're using Canvas and Angel, and that's when I first got hired, when we were using two learning management systems. So that was a lot. Students had to know how to use two different pieces of software, which got a little confusing. But in July 2013, we pulled the plug and we just used Canvas, and that's the current LMS that we use now. In 2014, we had our first fully online program planner available for a general AADTA degree. And then everybody remembers 2020, where we pushed everything online. I'm not going to talk much about that because I think it's still too fresh. So just kind of to do a comparison of classes that we had in winter 2011, you can see that we had 15.9% hybrid, only 14% online, 37.7% in person, and 32.4% web enhanced. And web enhanced is when you're fully in the classroom, but you use Canvas for some of the learning, like assignments, discussion boards, that sort of thing. But there's no required like attendance online. Whereas you look at winter 2024, online courses have skyrocketed. They've gone from 14% to 38.5%. So it kind of gives you an idea of how many courses we've increased over a period of, oh gosh, 13 years? Yeah, 13 years. Math on the fly is not my strong point. And then if you look at headcount, most of our students are taking those online courses now compared to 16.3% back in 2011. So our online courses really make up most of our student population taking those courses. Yep. And then this is a list of the fully online degrees we now have at LCC. We've increased to about 4, general AADTA, and associates in nursing, the LPN to RN, an associate's in business, and our Bachelor of Applied Science, ULTM, which is Organizational Leadership and Technical Management. And I had to write that down so I would remember what it was in this presentation. All right, and so this is the transition piece that we have for our next session. What do you call this menu up in that top right corner? Does anybody know? The little 3 dots up there. Wrong answers are okay. More stuff, I like that. That's what we should have called it. Hamburger, that's close. It is food related. Anybody else? It's not, it should be. It's a kebab menu because it looks like 3 little pieces of meat on a skewer. You'll see a food theme in the internet. So anyway, so that's my piece. And next up is David.
Welcome, everybody. My name's David. I work in the e-learning department as well. I've been here for about 2 years, and I kind of wanted to segue into online communications because we're not doing these correspondence courses anymore. We are communicating with people on the World Wide Web. So we wanted to go over some general etiquette tips. Really, the summary of all these tips is be nice to people on the internet. So really talking to people like you would talk to them in person. It's so easy to be short with people, to cut out those pleasantries or something, but these are all real people on the other side of the internet. Treat them like real people. It goes a long way. And also your typing. Do not type in all caps. Do not use text lingo. Just like you're talking to somebody in real life, you're going to want to use proper grammar. It makes what you're trying to communicate come through a lot easier, and it makes you seem nicer, which is what we're all going for. Staying positive is one thing people forget often because these are, once again, real people on the other end. Sometimes people just want to put their problems on the internet and they're looking for some feedback. It's real easy to dismiss them or to criticize them, but sometimes just being nice to them goes a long way. Drop a nice line, add some encouragement. These are all real people, and being nice to them, we all want to be treated better, so treat your internet strangers better. Now, the final thing on this is, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this at this point, the internet is forever. You put stuff on the internet, it will not go away. So make the historical you on the internet the nice you and not the I don't care about everybody else. And moving on to email etiquette, once again, it's the same thing. Be nice to people on internet, on email. I always like to think of everything as the golden rule. Treat other people as you want to be treated. And this includes like regular netiquette, using pleasantries, greetings, not be too terse or short in your responses. And if you get an email that really ticks you off, do not respond right away. It's usually good to just sit on these things for a little bit because you want to be nice. If you're nice to people, it will get your opinion across a lot better. And you will hopefully keep the person on the other end of the email chain happier as well. Now, while you're sending these emails, you want to make sure that they are accessible. So sometimes people on the other end of your email chain, they might have site issues or something. So using stuff like accessible web links. So some of you might not be aware, but people with site issues use screen readers to navigate their emails and such. They usually just read the contents of their email down. So if you post a web link that's like https://, you just put that on there in plain text, their screen reader will read the entire web link to them verbatim. If this is like a Google Docs link, there's going to be capital letters in there. They're going to be sitting there for 5 minutes listening to their screen reader read off all these letters that means nothing to them. If you do like an insert hyperlink or like a Control and K, you can just type link to whatever the name of your website is, and then their screen reader will read that link instead of the big jumble of the hyperlink that it comes in its normal format. And then along with being accessible, the same thing goes with pictures. Your pictures might be read by a screen reader because it might be a non-sighted person. So if you usually right-click on your picture, you can add alternative text and add a brief description of your picture. So if the person on the other end does have sight issues, they can still get the gist of the picture. And then on the support side, often when you're sending communications via email, it's a lot easier to communicate things with screenshots, highlights. People will use Zoom videos in e-learning. We use Zoom to communicate with our students and see what they're seeing on their screen. Makes it a million times easier to walk them through whatever you're trying to help them with. And then using a service like ScreenPal or something to record what you're doing on your computer and give it to them. Use technology to your advantage. We don't have to just send letters these days, and using stuff like screen recorders goes a long way in getting your point across. So since we're talking about etiquette, we might as well touch on phone in-person etiquette. Please see previous slide. Be nice to people. It's the same thing, the golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated. But one thing about using technology with providing in-person or phone support is sometimes you got to realize when you should not use technology. I don't know how many times you guys have ever been cold transferred, where you've called someplace, you've explained your issues, it's not the correct department, they send you off to some other department, they use technology to their advantage. They can just get rid of that call, they can send you off to a voicemail. Don't do that. If you can stay on the line, communicate with the person that you're trying to connect them to, explain the issue, tell them what their name is at a minimum, it'll go a long way with making the person on your end of the line feel better about not having to repeat themselves, and also the person who is helping you provide this support, they know the name of the person, they know the gist of the issue, they're not just getting thrown into it. And then also, going along with the etiquette and email stuff, always show empathy. It's a really good idea to put yourself in the shoes of the people that you are trying to provide support for, or speaking to randomly on the internet, or communicating with through emails. Put yourself in their shoes. Sometimes you've had a really frustrating day and it's real easy to just shoot off a quick message or a short statement, but really showing a little bit of empathy goes a long way. Even if you can't solve their problems, it will make them feel better and make them seem more human. And then once again, transfer into voicemail. If you need to transfer to voicemail, give them a warning that they're going to be going to voicemail. I know it stinks. Sometimes that's what you have to do. A heads up is always appreciated. So what does the future of customer service look like? Probably going to be AI. So I know a lot of you probably don't like this answers right now. AI can be very frustrating, but AI is getting better by leaps and bounds. I hear, unfortunately, there are already layoffs going along with companies because AI has taken over some of these basic level jobs. But the beauty is with AI is they work 24/7. They have access to very specific information that is accurate, and you can provide unlimited support with AI. It's not great now, but think about like the automobile. 100 years ago, what did our cars look like? They're quite different these days. AI is going to be the same. It is advancing in leaps and bounds, and in the future, it's going to be able to provide excellent support for people. So we might as well get used to utilizing our AI tools right now. And for the segue, what is this menu called? Wrong answer is okay. What's that? That's a good one. This is mostly called the waffle menu or the iron waffle menu. They're all food related. And I'll pass it up to Danielle.
All right, my name is Danielle, and for my part of the show, I get to tell you about how an angry teenager accidentally started a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise. So we are going to step back to the same world Sarah was telling us about in the 90s. And while the internet came about in about the 60s, at the time it was really only used for government researchers to communicate with each other. It did not become available to the public until 1993. So in 1994, the most popular internet service provider in the country was AOL. We are going to talk a little bit about America Online. So in 1994, it seems bonkers to us now, but you paid $3.50 an hour. If you tried to tell an 18-year-old that they needed to pay by the hour for internet, like, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. And teenagers in 1994 also thought that was ridiculous. So AOL comes about, there is a whole lot of chaos. And this angry teenager from Pennsylvania went by the screen name of DeChronic. And I am actively choosing to not use his full name. It is very easy to go find that if you want to go find that information. but he was a child at the time he did these things. It has been a lot of years, and I actually just like saying DeChronic more because it's super fun. So he was a 17-year-old from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he was only active on AOL between 1994 and 1995. So the chaos he is about to unleash, he accomplishes in a single year. He came from a very poor family who rented their computer from Rent-A-Center. And the fact that his family was really economically disadvantaged will become quite relevant later when you hear his explanation for why he did what he did. But he was hell-bent on vengeance and chaos. And there is a bit of a longer story here for sure. But the summary of why this kid was so mad really had to do with feeling like AOL was not enforcing their own policies equitably. He had found a home in hacker communities that were at the time really primarily teenagers. And AOL, of course, was not a huge fan of this because what's the main thing that these kids were doing? They were stealing service from AOL. In the earliest days of these like nefarious deeds, you just used a number generator online to try to generate credit card numbers and create a fake account. AOL did a really bad job of verifying billing information. So with a fake credit card number and a made up name, you could get like 10 to 12 hours of access on AOL. So these kids did a whole lot of, I don't want to pay for this. We're going to get up to some shady nonsense. AOL, not a fan. That hurts their bottom line a lot. So AOL would regularly shut down these chat rooms that these kids were using to get up to their nefarious nonsense. And unfortunately, they had a bit of a problem with the way they were prioritizing shutting down chat rooms. DeChronic's main problem with this was that they did nothing to prevent child pornography from being openly and regularly traded. And this is in both the like interviews he's done more recently and his original documentation for this program he's about to create. That is his cited reason. But remember, he's a 17-year-old. It's not his only reason. His other reason was, I want to see if I can. There's these cool things I'm going to do. But also, he wanted to get other kids free internet. So what did he do with a little help from his friends? So DeChronic is the primary author of this program I'm about to tell you about that he created, but his friends, the Rizzer and the Squirrel, helped him quite a lot. I love internet handles. They're so silly for the absolutely bonkers things they get up to. DeChronic created a program, and that program was called AOL. And this was its opening screen. That face there in the middle is the face of a man named Steve Case, who was the CEO of AOL at the time. And the thing that was really revolutionary about this program is that it was the first of its kind. But this kid was not a criminal mastermind. If you're a criminal mastermind and you find a way to exploit something, you don't tell everybody about it. And this kid 100% did. He hated AOL so much that he spread this widely. He gave so many people access to this program. In particular, he would like send this file to like teen chat rooms. And he also like really wanted to get other kids involved in coding and hacking and all of that good stuff. So he comes up with this program, AOL. So what did AOL do? It did a number of really like nonsense teenagery things. Like it does so many things, but most of them were just nuisance things. But one, it removed paywalls. So AOL at the time, like you had a free section. And if you had this program installed, you'd go into one of these free sections where they weren't charging you for your time, click the free button, and it would bring back all of the stuff that was hidden because you didn't pay for it. In an interview that this man sat for at the start of 2022, he mentions that he really only found this out by accident because he was testing something completely unrelated, and he was just baffled that AOL's security was so bad. He never would have even tried this because why would you make it so easy to get around? The really extremely simple version of what happened here was that AOL just said to AOL, like, hey, hide those windows if they haven't paid. His program just went, no, unhide them. And that was really it. It was don't hide them. It was a very simple, like you could get around their paywall so easy. But it also generated fake accounts with fake credit card numbers. And so this comes back to that same, AOL's billing verification was not great. AOL would make statements later really defending their choices. I'm going to tell you about a lot of things AOL messed up in the process of this, because remember, like, this wasn't him altering AOL at all. What he was doing was exploiting vulnerabilities in AOL's own system. So these fake accounts with fake credit card numbers, they would usually last for about a day before they were actually billed and they found out the billing information was not verifiable. And this isn't necessarily because the technology didn't exist at the time to verify them. AOL just chose not to use it. They would make statements about how they had determined that the risk was worth the reward. It's not an unfamiliar thing to hear tech bros say, looking at you, Elon Musk, that the risk is just the possibility for expansion and innovation is too much. So we're gonna let this security piece go. But it also had something on it called a punter, which again, this is peak teenager nonsense. So what this would do, you would just click a button in your chat room and it would send a message to whoever you wanted it to send a message to. And that message would create an unignorable error that meant that you had to reboot and get back online. You had to shut everything down. And while that would be obnoxious to us now, remember this was 1994 and we were on dial-up. So it was a much more obnoxious process. It also includes something called scrollers. Remember, this was at a time when chat rooms were really, really popular. There were tons of them. And what a scroller would do would just rapidly, repeatedly post the same message over and over and over again. And well, yes, you could tell it like, here's the text I want to use. The more popular thing to do was use something called ASCII art, which is just art made out of text characters. So slashes and asterisks and letters and dashes, all that good stuff. And you'll never guess what the most popular images of this program were. Butts and middle fingers, like peak teenager nonsense. So this, and it wasn't like, it was just annoying. It would fill up a chat room screen and you couldn't figure out what other people were saying until you ignored this person. Like it was ridiculous. But this isn't the only thing this program did. If these were all the things it did, it would not have gained the fame that it did. But also, the dawn of automated phishing happened with this program. So phishing is barest form. It's fraud. You pretend to be someone you're not to get information you shouldn't have, to do things you shouldn't do. And this is now one of it's the most common type of scam any of us run into is phishing scams. So prior to this program, to AOL, you had to do this manually. The general process, if you were going to be, shady as all heck, was you used a random credit card number generator. You got online, you got this free account that's going to get shut down in a couple of hours. You went into new user chat rooms because, again, brand new, the internet has just become available to the public. And you went in and you made sure your screen name was something like AOL billing department. And you would ask people, hey, this is AOL. We've had some sort of data breach or like something has been lost and we need you to verify your information, or hey, your payment couldn't be processed. Please verify your credit card number for me. And obviously these people weren't from AOL and they would use the information that they gained to access other people's accounts. And for some people, like if you logged in regularly and you logged in at a time someone else was logged into your account, you get a message from AOL, hey, your account is compromised, give us a call, and you could solve it that way. So the jackpot for these folks, remember, most of them are kids that didn't really, some of them knew exactly what they were doing. Others had other reasons that they thought it was okay. But the real jackpot was if you find somebody who rarely logs in, because you can just rack up time and they have no idea someone else is using their account until they get the bill at the end of the month, which could be exorbitant. So here's what it actually looked like. So this was the password credit card phisher. This program, even though this uses the F-I-S-H spelling, this program used both spellings, both the PH and the F spelling, and is largely documented as like the first time that term was broadly used. So it looked like this. You chose if you wanted to fish for passwords or if you wanted to fish for credit cards. You picked either one of their 3 pre-built phrases or you added your own custom message and you clicked start. That was it. What it would do at that point was send whatever your message was to everyone that was in that chat room, usually about 20 people at a time. And then it would close all those chat windows and you wouldn't see them anymore. But that's not like you didn't actually have to monitor any of it. It just recorded people's responses in the background so that you could immediately go into the next chat room and click the start button again and send this message to more and more people. And so before they were manually copying and pasting this and monitoring those responses, Dechronic reports that when you use this tool, you always used a fake account because AOL would shut you down, but you could hit about 200 to 300 people before they got your account closed. And I have talked a lot of shade about AOL, This isn't one of the spots where they screwed up. You might think like 200 to 300 people would like, man, they must have been behind the ball. They weren't. This usually happened in under 5 minutes. You had about 5 minutes before somebody from AOL would shut you down if you were doing this. And in that time, because we had found a way to automate it, you could get like 200 to 300 people. And the way you most often got caught was because you were targeting new user rooms. AOL employees tended to hang out in some of those. So you would usually get caught when you sent the message to an AOL employee who said, hey, no, this doesn't seem quite right. So in addition to spreading this widely, this was in there. And this was the first time this had ever been done on an automated scale. And now a lot, if not most, of these kinds of scams are automated. And yes, to bring it back to the AI that we all love to hate so much, it does. It makes it even easier for people to use these tools. Because this in particular, this was built to be simple. This was built so that you didn't need to know anything about code to use it, and you could wreak absolute havoc. That was his whole goal. DeCronic's whole goal was, I hate AOL, and I want to mess with them as much as I possibly can. We're at 12:01, perfect. We'll have time for questions. So where are we now, though? How does DeCronic feel about what he did? So he sat for an interview at the start of 2022. And obviously, no, as a 17-year-old, he had no idea that releasing this was going to spawn this idea for the wider public, and it would turn into this huge, huge thing. And yes, the argument canon should be made that if it hadn't been him, it would have been somebody else. It's not like without this guy, we would have never had this happen. It would have happened. Some would even argue that it might have been worse because a smarter person wouldn't have broadly shared it. And so AOL would have had no way to know like what that program was. But yeah, they could very easily get into it with the way this young man spread it around. They could very easily get in and see, hey, here's how they're getting around our security. But he feels, to sum it up, guilty and conflicted. Because one, his morality has changed a lot since then. He honestly, like after he left the AOL community in 1995, he really left the internet as a whole. He was incredibly worried about consequences for his actions that he might face as an adult if he kept getting up to this nonsense. And he just got into cars and built a like community outside of the internet because that had been his whole community prior. And this kid was a high school dropout. He accomplished all of this in a year, but he accomplished it in a year because he was spending like 10 to 12 hours a day just building new things for this program. And the reason he feels conflicted about it though is because he also understood what 17-year-old him was thinking. To this 17-year-old who had the volatile combination of, you know, abundant creativity and no foresight whatsoever, he understood that 17-year-old thought that there were 3 kinds of people on AOL. Kids like him, pedophiles, and rich people who will never miss the money. Remember, he came from a really poor family, and at 17, he felt like if you have a credit card, you are rich. If you have a credit card and you can access AOL, and yeah, like for a 17-year-old from a really poor family that had to rent their computer, like of course that makes sense. So he understands why 17-year-old him did it, but also he 100% recognizes that it is incredibly wrong and that has been used to hurt very, very vulnerable people. In his interview, the thing he specifically cites is like, now I recognize that even then, yeah, I might have hurt somebody who couldn't pay to feed themselves, who couldn't get their grandkids Christmas presents because I wanted internet so bad. So does he understand? Yes, but the damage is done. So what's the state of technology facilitated scams today? You will not just get scams through your email. You're going to get them over the phone. You're going to get them via text message. They're everywhere all the time. And according to the FBI, Americans lost $12.5 billion to online scams in 2023 alone. And remember, that number is low. This is one of the most underreported crimes because there's a lot of shame in admitting that you were tricked by something. This goes unreported pretty frequently. And I've often found like, I think folks really feel like, where do I even report this to? Your local law enforcement, first step. But also, according to data from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, in 2023, bank transfer and cryptocurrency scams accounted for more losses than all other types of scams combined. So those are scams where you are asked to transfer money to somebody, often in exchange for getting some higher value thing back. So you feel like, I'm just giving you this and I'm going to make it all back in the end, and then you never see a dime. And cryptocurrency scams are the sort where, yeah, somebody tells you, hey, you're gonna invest in cryptocurrency, use this app, it's gonna work, it's fine, it's not my app, it's in the Apple App Store, and you seem like you're making money until you go to withdraw it all and you find out that all of your money is gone. So these scams are all over the place. One additional resource I highly recommend is John Oliver's segment on pig butchering scams. No pigs are actually killed in the process, but it is no less terrifying. And that is freely available on YouTube. John Oliver's segment on pig butchering scams. He does use a little bit of colorful language, so be aware of that. So, but how do we stay safe? If I were to list off every kind of scam out there, it would take me an incredibly long time. And by the time I was done, there would be more scams invented that I hadn't covered. So in general, thought a lot about what are my 3 biggest tips for you to keep yourself safe and make sure your loved ones stay safe. So first, don't touch it. Follow the rule you want your toddlers to know right out the gate. If you don't know where it came from or what it is, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't pick it up. Don't click on it. Don't give it your credit card information. Just leave it be. If you think anything is even remotely fishy, leave it alone. So as a great example from today, a lot of LCC employees got an email that the name on it appeared to be from one of the members of our board of trustees. And that email said that one of our other employees, a teacher who works in Head Start, was trying to give away this incredibly expensive piece of welding equipment from her late father. And all the instruction the email gave was that if you are interested in this, you should email this email address. And if you were looking at it, you'd notice that that email address doesn't seem like it would be from one of our board of trustees member. It was like Comcast hiring 18@outlook.com. But the link to this other personal email address was a valid link. It went exactly where it said it was going to go. But one of the caveat details here is that it also said arranged to work with a moving company to get this equipment to you. The way those scams often work, if you had emailed that address and asked about getting this piece of equipment, they would have said, yeah, absolutely. Please send this moving company $150, $200, whatever, send this company this money and we'll get it right to you. You'd send off your money and you would never see anything in return. They're called social engineering scams, and they are one of the most effective kinds of scams there are because they're not really about coding. They're not really about hacking. They're about you as a person and how they can trick and manipulate you into giving them things they shouldn't have. So 1, just don't touch it. Leave it alone. Ask somebody else. Leave it be. 2, hang up and call. Another really common type of scam does not come through your computer. It comes through your phone. You get a call, the caller ID looks like it's from your bank, and they ask you to verify information. You hang up immediately and call your bank. They can absolutely spoof phone numbers. They can spoof caller ID. And it seems legitimate because it came from like this name of this place you trust, especially if they seem like there's some urgency. I once got a phone call from a man telling me that I had a warrant out for my arrest and I need to give him my social security number so I can confirm that it's me before he gives me the information. I was like, that seems sketchy. No. But they're all over the place. So if you get phone calls or text messages, they're more and more common as text messages. Don't reply to them. If you feel like it's something you might need to be concerned about, contact the agency yourself that's giving you this message or asking you for this money or this information. If the call was legitimate, they will absolutely understand why you hung up and called them back. One of the really common ones, I think like your husband got it a little bit ago too, my husband got it, is a text message that tells you your package could not be delivered. Go to this website, log in with whatever information. Those are almost entirely fraudulent. Do not ever respond to a text message or click on a link in a text message telling you that a package has been disrupted, even if you have a package coming. These con artists, they know full well that so many people get stuff delivered. If you send that message to 100 people, yeah, you're probably going to get a couple of them who have a package that is about to arrive. So those are super common. Always, always contact the organization that this is from. So the last thing though is to ask for help. You are like, even I am not going to know what every single scam is. No one is. Always get a second pair of eyes on it. And this is a spot where I really wanted to tell you, we have this community organization in case you don't have some person in your life or your family that's your go-to technology person. And I wish I could tell you that we have some sort of organization for that, but for everything I can find, we really don't. It's a area I hope somebody more entrepreneurial than me develops at some point. But my general advice, if you believe you have been the victim of a crime, even if like somebody scammed you out of $20, do report it to your local law enforcement. They should be able to tell you if there's another place you need to report it to. The Federal Trade Commission will take reports on internet scams, and the more they're reported, the better our government agencies can help fight them. The other shameless plug I'm going to give here, if you feel like you don't have anybody to contact, you're not sure how to learn about these things, through our college and career prep program, we have a technology class that you can take for $25. And if that is a financial restriction for you, there are waivers available to waive even that cost. So please do educate yourself as much as you can, because it is kind of a sketchy, dangerous place out there right now. But the same things that protected us from con artists before the internet still protect us now. Don't click on stuff. Don't trust anyone. They're all lying to you. Yes. Okay. And that is our presentation for you. We saved a couple minutes at the end for questions. Do you have anything else for us, Courtney? Oh, great.
I just want to say that as somebody who was a web designer in 1996, thank you for taking me back to mid-90s internet aesthetics. That was a beautiful trip down memory lane for me. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
What's the exact name of that class?
Beginning Technology is the name, and it's through the College and Career Prep program.
Okay, I got another question. Is the math, how does this work with the math lab? Is that considered a hybrid class?
Is the Beginning Technology class a hybrid class? Is that
No,
the question?
math,
Math.
mathematics.
Depends on the math class. If you are, yeah, some are, some aren't.
Because they
Depends.
all seem to use the math lab now. So is that considered?
Not, so I get what you're saying. Not all of them do. And many of our programs are moving away from using My Math Lab because of the extremely high cost to students. If you're concerned about that though, like if by all means chat with registration, you should be able to find information. Or if you come see us in eLearning, we can help you figure out whether those classes are going to have that requirement.
Because the last time I took a math class, it was before the pandemic, but you went to class every day, but you had to do all the work in the math lab. I don't know if it's that way now, but
For like a lot of classes, it is. Your homework is still going to be through an online platform.
yeah, that's what I wanted. Is that considered hybrid, or is that?
Generally not fully online.
Yeah.
But it might be considered hybrid or enhanced.
Enhanced?
Depending on how many hours you spend in class.
Well, it was probably an hour a day for 5 days, or
That would just be a web enhanced class.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Mhm.
So just as kind of, it came up for me now. This is the old LCC website, brings back a lot of great memories. It's good times, good times. The campus it looks a lot different now, but now we have the class schedule. It would show self-paced, evening, all classes, and distance education. And so let's see if it does. So with the distance education courses, they used teleport.com just as the website for students to see the general information. And look at this beauty right here. Yep. And it would have general information, how to register, assignments over here. Honestly, it's not that much different, but it's just in a different package now. It looks different, but with our current online classes, you go into Canvas, there are areas where you click on to submit assignments, you upload documents, very similar. Just this one gives the assignments and then you would email them to your instructor instead. So, yep, it's definitely changed. This was pre-YouTube. Hand deliver completed assignments on or before the due date for full credit. So, yep, you would still have to deliver those assignments somehow. So yeah, that's just kind of a little image of the past. And if you're ever interested in seeing how websites used to look, Internet Archives is a great way to go and look and see what websites used to be like.
And it's great to see this as somebody who worked in that industry. This is the basic default HTML color scheme too. It's the black text, it's the blue links. That's 90% of sites from the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Do we have any other questions? Okay.
Does AOL still exist?
Does AOL still exist?
Yes, there are actually tens of thousands of people that still use AOL dial-up.
That's not very many.
For me, I'm actually surprised that many people still use dial-up, period. Sometimes I think that these might be accounts that don't really use the service, but still have them on automatic billing or something, but the internet tells me that these still exist. Maybe it's self-serving.
It's also one of the things I added into my history course, was a 1997 commercial from AOL that talks about all the things you can do on the internet, and it's fascinating. We really have come a long way.
Yeah. Well, if you think about even just the telephones, how much different those are between 1997 when they first started getting the track phones. Star Trek, I think is what it was, and they were the first flip phone. That was in 1997. We got our first flip phone. And before that, it was a giant brick that you just held to your head. So
Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody, and come back next week for David Rosie's Tech Driving Our Lives. Thanks, everybody.